Hello everyone, welcome back once again. I was a little bit under the weather the past few days, so we weren't able to make a new one. But for now, we're doing good. So it's time to get back to work. All right, we'll continue our episodes of the English, and this time let's discuss the symmetrical variation of the English variation. Okay, let's start with. Okay, in this game it starts with knight f3, knight f6, but it will just be transposed into. We can start with c4 anyways. Okay, c4, c5, yeah. So g3, be consistent with the reverse dragon last time. We have to be consistent also with this g3 line, because one of these days after our English episode we might discuss also the Catalan. Yeah. Okay. Solid as white. Yeah. So d5 we have this early d5. Black could also go for e6, and then we go for knight c3, or sorry, bishop g2, d5 takes and takes. Then we go d4. But this one is reserved for the next episode. We will talk about the IQP after this one. All right, but for now, let's check out this early d5 by black. So he takes d5, knight into d5. Okay, bishop into g2. Knight c6. By the way, we are looking at Mami Jarab's game against Peter Lecco. It was played in 2010, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So knight c3, g6. Black could also play g6 early in the game. So d3, again, a type of dragon setup. Only difference is that there's c5 here. So c4, c5. So bishop g7, bishop to d2, castles. Knight c7. Okay, the main point of knight c7 is to protect the rook on a8 once white pressures. For example, the move rook c1 and then knight into a4. Then black could just play b6, so you don't have this x-ray on the rook on a8 being protected by that knight on c7. Okay. If we try to take a look at the line, let's say rooks to c1, there's b6 straight away for black. Yes, because we don't have a discovered attack. Let's say we go knight g5. Okay, just bishop into d7. So that was the main point of the move knight c7. So a3. Okay, Mami Jar wants to play b4 later in the game. Bishop into d7, rook to b1 instead of rook c1. Again, b4 is the target. a5, Lecco stops the b4 push. Because if let's say black doesn't stop it, then we're good to go. We expand on the queen's side. Takes in b4, takes in b4. Yep. We have b5. If black stops it, we just go bishop into g5. Let's say queen goes to c8. This knight goes to d2. Now this is typical. If h6, we put that back to e3. c5 square is yours. Yeah, we have knight e4 knight, or this knight there. d6 as well. Knight e4, knight e6. Alrighty. So rook into b1, a5. Black has to stop the b4 push. Knight into a4. Pressure on c5. With a5, okay, the grip on c5 is not that strong with a5 because there's no more pawn chain from a7 to c5. So knight into e6, rook c1. This time b6, e3. Nice move, controlling the d4 square. No knight d4. Right. Okay, rook into b8, bishop c3. It's important also to exchange the dark squared bishop over there. So bishop into e8 takes on g7, knight takes g7, knight c3 back. We don't have any business anymore on c5. The main point of knight a4 is not just to take that pawn, but to exchange that important bishop, the dark square bishop. So e5, knight e2, all right, nice move. In the game, knight f5 was played. Now let's take a look at queen d3. Problem with queen d3 is that we have knight d5. Queen is misplaced on d3. Okay, we also have knight f6 coming up. Knight f6, take the bishop, and then take the knight over on c6. So if the opponent plays f5, knight c4, we can exchange the queen. Takes, takes. If you look at black's coordination, it's really bad. We have a strong bishop on g2. If he blocks it, let's say he blocks it, we have knight takes b6, of course. If he plays b5, right, to save the peony, we have knight d6, we're threatening c5. c4, we have knight c7. Look at the knights. Woo, woo. Yeah, dancing knights, yeah. Two knights tango, yeah. And then you're attacking the pawn on b5. You cannot push because c4 is going to be taken. This knight e8 coming up. Ho, ho, ho. Good for white. Okay. So Lecco had to play knight f5. Knight e5, centralized knight, strong bishop. King to g7, knight c4. Look at the knights. These two are better placed compared to c6 and f5. f6 protecting the pawn on e5, queen c2. Yes, sir. Look at the threat, okay? It's not here yet, but the surprise comes when Lecco went for knight e7. You gotta get ready. Material imbalance with the pawn also, yes. Knight takes on b6, you have to do it. If you want to win chess games, you gotta go for it, no hesitation. Okay, of course the main point of queen c2 was to take the pawn on c5 with the queen, not with the rook. So takes, takes, and then queen takes c5. Queen goes to d8, d4, nice move. e4, or here white could also go for rook fd1, which is also winning in a way. He went for e4, all right. Disrupting the connection of the two knights. The knight has to go back to h6, because if you go back to d6, for example, e5 comes. You take on e5, queen takes e5, you go king to g8, queen takes d4, the light square is open, oops. And then rook to d1. Potential pass one. Everything is good. So knight into h6, rook fd1. Two rooks. Knight into c6. Alright, b4. Takes on b4, d3. Rook c3, d2. Rook c2, attacking d2. b5. Knight into e5. Nice move, queen c7. Rook takes d2. The pin on the king, yeah. If you take the queen, for example, just take. If you move back, it's b6. Pawn will be unstoppable. Yep. Alright, so bishop into d7, rook d2, and that bishop is dead. With this b5, we have f4. You cannot play queen b1, this rook c1. Third on knight, third on d7. Can you do? So knight goes back to f7, unfortunately. Gain back the piece. Yeah, you are now exchange up. Knight takes e5. Bishop into f1. They're removing the defender on d7. Queen goes to a4. Rook into c4. Queen to b5. Rook cd4. Knight f3 doesn't work because king f2 or king g2. Maybe king f2. Because you're attacking that queen. You're attacking that knight. You're attacking that d7. This was another good model for this line. Yeah? The placement, okay. If you take a look at once again, right? Okay. That a3 and rook to b1, the expansion with b4. Knight move to clear the way for the bishop. These are the main things that you need to consider when you play this line. Black has to play knight e6, no other way. Again, the good thing about rook b1 a3 is that you don't want black to have that pawn chain with a7, b6, and c5. So forcing black to play a5, okay? With that one, he doesn't have that grip, strong grip on the c5 pawn. At the same time, also, you're going to exchange that bishop right there. Okay, on g7. With bishop e8, okay, what else is there? If let's say he doesn't want to exchange that bishop, then we go d4. This is a big problem now. How to white is going to push d5. Where is the knight moving? Yeah. So he's forced to do that one to control at least the d4 square, and then just back because knight on the rim is dim. Just go back to the central square. The d5 is yours. If he doesn't want you to go for the d5 square, for example, we push this pawn d4. Okay. If c takes d4, we exchange knight takes d4, knight takes d4, e takes d4. Then we have that push. Let's say, for example, knight f5, we have d5 takes, and then knight takes d5. Look at that knight. Look at that bishop. Yes, and the dark square weakness. That is yours. Yeah? Rook e1 is coming also. e7, g4, queen d4, name it. So he has to go e5. But then again, when he goes e5, the d5 square is yours. It's just not e2. Unlike this sacrifice, again, queen takes d3 is not possible because of the control of knight d5. Then the other knight goes to c4, to a knight's tango, right? Okay, so knight f5, we have knight e5, knight into c4. This is very typical in this variation, especially with the Maroczy bind. This is what we call the Maroczy bind, c5 and e5 pawns controlling d4. So we have this light square outpost on d5 and c4. And then queen c2, preparing for that final execution of the sacrifice on b6. This may not work. This will not work if the pawn was on a7. That's why it's important to play a3 rook b1 early, so that when the pawn is on a5, the b6 pawn becomes a target. So once you take it, Right, look at that. Smooth, very smooth. Pass pawn plus the rook. Right, that's it. Yes, a pretty good game. A pretty good game by Mamedjarov against Leko. And also a good example of the line against the symmetrical variation of the English. So that's it, guys. I hope, again, you enjoy our discussion for today. And then we will continue more of the English in the days to come. This is Coach Oliver once again, and have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.